understood and talked about when you look at business plans, talk to entrepreneurs. I probably mentioned last week that I was reading the 350 pages or something for these 10 companies who were in the finals of Venture Cup, including one of the guys here. Very good plan, very good pitch. Thank you. But I'm not talking about your plan right now, but in general, all these plans have the same thing. There's so much about the market, so much about the technology, so much about the people, blah, 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 maybe financial as well. So little about the execution and go-to-market and how you actually make it happen. And that is bad. Because, like I said, the idea we put our faces on internet and then link them, this is trivial. Everyone can come up with this idea. How do you make it happen so that you get 400 million users instead of 500,000 users? And I mean, that is really the key. With, again, going back to this Moventa example, we are doing a couple of things there. We are using, we have a clear differentiation in terms of the competition. So we don't go where all the other competitors are, so not the top end of the market. And we are also using some unconventional channels. Well, I mean, they're not that strange, but they're just different from what the competitors are using. And we have a very clear go-to-market plan. Now, when it comes to your innovations or ideas or services, products, do you have a go-to-market plan? Have you thought about, for instance, your virtual tourist?
Yeah, well, just going back to the software, it needs some software development.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Sure, we can talk about the go-to-market plan, but then there you have the communication challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
we tell that, and then somebody's sort of writing in parallel.
Yeah.
So it's vision and execution.
But you thought about it.
Yeah. Actually, a few different scenarios.
Right. Yeah, I think that is a very good answer because there's the scenario word. I don't think that there's one way, and especially if you're doing these plans, writing business plans and so on, you might have well, actually, the VCs don't want to have scenarios, they just want to hear one story, but actually it's really about these scenarios. And the way to do it is, and that's why, like Tanel was talking last week here, and also of the same opinion, that the plans are not that interesting. The planning is essential, but the plans are not so. So the idea is that you need to have different scenarios. Like, for instance, in Moventa's case, we've gone through several scenarios, and the fundamental philosophy there is built around this fail fast model. So you try something, if it doesn't work, you try something else. And many of you have a scientific background, so I'll give you an example from science. You have a hypothesis, like that the world works like this, or something works like, or I mean, you understand what I'm talking about. So you have a hypothesis. The same thing with go-to-market. It's a scenario or a hypothesis that if we do this, X, Y, and Z will happen. But you shouldn't think of that as a given, or that it's always going to be very straightforward. Instead, you need to be very flexible and agile and be able to change and adapt.
Yeah, actually, the way we've been looking at it is that we have an offering, but we want to set the mood for that offering. So a lot of it will be based on the brand essence of this, and the scenarios that we've created. I mean, they go from everything from serious to goofy, and then try it out and see which actually takes up the mood best, and then develop because we do have software ideas, which one to take forward as that mood
with you talked about planning side of things. So my opinion is that you don't really have a plan. You have a good guess what could happen. Yeah. And what we are doing right now, we are looking for angel investment to cover our business for 6 months because we need to get to proof of concept for our business side. So we are we have, as you said, we have different kind of scenarios that we are going through right now, and we are now testing one with half a year. So we are going to see what's going to happen, and then we have to change our plan if we for our good guess. So,
There's also one aspect on the go-to-market. I fully agree on everything you say, and in the businesses I've been involved, I mean, we've sometimes failed miserably on the go-to-market, which really is the whole thing. Because if you can't get into the market, so why do you exist? Because you just end up burning a lot of money and a lot of time with no results. So one of the things is also when you connect the competition here, I mean, in our current business, one of the reasons why we went early to the market, even though we didn't have anything to sell, we didn't have a solution or anything, it's also that in our businesses, buying cycles are very long. So the deals are typically something like 3 years. So we had to be out there just to show to all the customers that this is something which is up and coming, this is going to happen, and you have to take that into consideration when you plan your own business. Because if they lock themselves into something else for the next 3 years, and it means that we'll have to wait for a long time before we can strike a deal with these kind of people. So therefore it's also important to go out there to show what you have, even though it's not perfect, because you can block the competition by doing that. Because you can get it into customers' heads and they will think, well, maybe I'll wait for this if the guys can make it work because it's very, very interesting. That's also something you have to keep in mind when you plan for the strategy, how you do it.
What's your take on how to go to market? Like, do you first choose one really specific market segment that you're going to target and spread from there, or do you just try to cover everything? Because now with my service, I'm just trying to take a little bit really active piece and see how that goes. Probably spread from there or just grow that segment.
Well, I think this is a very good point that you make, because often companies, when they have all these zillion ideas and there's this massive thing that they want to do, and they want to go to market with the entire offering at once, and always the end result is miserable, because instead of offering everything for everyone, they offer nothing for that's not correct. Anyway, no one gets anything, and that's, if you think of what Google is today, they have a calendar, email, lots of stuff, and if you think of how, if Google had come to the market with all of this, like not just beta, but some like 5 different versions before, like really crappy email, really crappy search, really crappy something, and try to do everything at once, I don't think it would have flown. So it's really, you come out with something, you might have this huge menu or palette of stuff, but you should introduce one thing at a time, preferably for, like, going back to these who's paying, what paying, this, finding something which is, like for instance, your dictionary thing. Do something, even if I know that you have much bigger visions and ideas, but you should go out there solving one pain and doing that really well, and selecting the pain in such a way that someone is willing to pay money for that. Then you can expand, you can introduce new features, new functionalities, you can go to other segments, you can do the whole thing, but you need to start very focused. And if you think of Skype, for instance, now again, they have lots of different things in their offering, but what they started with is free calls on the internet. It's a very simple message. It's a really, again, going back to the value proposition. In the beginning, they didn't really have Skype or Skype out, so no business model, but it was a simple thing. It's value for me, it solves my pain. For many people, it solved the pain, and it's really simple to articulate. So it makes the go-to-market really fast, because there's one message that everyone can repeat to each other, and it doesn't dilute in the process. So all of these are somehow tied into one another.
This goes back to the first day when they were talking about, well, you go for the 500,000 or for 2 million. But maybe what I'm hearing is you go for the 2 million, but you start with that 500,000 project to just kick it off. But with the VCs, you're getting the vision. Moving to, or is that confuse them?
What is the 500,000 to 2 million?
It was a discussion. You start, all the way from bootstrapping and then onwards. What kind of funding do you ask for?
Yes.
Launch.
Yep.
Okay. So you launch it with something kind of small and fine-tuned, but still try to be targeting this sort of vision with the VC that is going forward.
Yeah, you need to boot. I think the answer is both, if I get it. Like, you need to start very kind of minimalist, bootstrapping, offering one solution for like a really targeted solution for some targeted pain. But then if you want to get the bigger funding and good kind of, you should never think of funding as a one-off event. You should think of it as at least for instance in the companies that I and Vettori is involved, we always do a multi-level, multi-stage funding plan. So not just what happens in the angel funding, but we think of it as the next 2 years, for instance. We need funding today, so much. Then we need funding on day X, 3 or 6 months or 9 months from now. And then this is the way we build the funding plan and the cap table. And also you should reflect that on the go-to-market. And because in the beginning you don't need 2 million. You can't find so many people in such a short time that you could spend the 2 million. But you need some money now, but you need to have some sort of a plan how you take more people on board and how you start burning more money once you get a bit further in your execution. Juha.
I think it relates to what you were asking about whether go vertically or like geographically, for example. I mean, I guess the rule of thumb, what I learned is that if you provide a big potential for a big market, you can get big funding. If you provide a small potential for small market, you can get small funding. It's very simple when you think about it. So what it means is that you have to be able to show also to the VCs that there is a big market and I can reach it. And in order to do that, I need a lot of money. That's how you have to create your case. If you can't show that, you'll end up having a couple of 100,000 because you're dealing with a small local market with a small potential. So why would you need a lot of money? It's very, very simple when you think of it. In reality, of course, it's quite hard to do.
Yeah, and I mean, like I was talking about this invoicing company, for instance. Our plan is, or we can easily articulate that the target market is several billions, and we have a credible plan, and I'm serious, we have a credible plan how we're going to make 100 million in revenues in 5 years. And that is the story how we aim to get the first funding and how we're going to do the next funding.
There's always, you need to separate two things. For example, I mean, I've always said that forget Finland, go global. You know, that's nice, but in reality very hard. But you need to separate. It's okay to prove your business case in Finland like these guys are doing. They're proving the logic of their business case. Then you just expand and multiply into different countries, for example, in this case. But if you're only having some customers in Finland and you're not proving the actual business logic which you can multiply, then it's not worth much, because then you're a local player with a local business, and that is not interesting for a VC, because they're looking for global businesses. But if you can prove the business logic in a local market, sort of in a demo environment, if you understand what I mean, then it's okay, because then they just think, well, okay, Finland is 5 million people and the US is 300 million, so that's 60 times, right? Can you do the add up and get some idea?
That's actually what same thing like testing in Finland. Like it just feels that for some companies it's a curse to first test it in Finland, and then they just stay in Finland and do the business in Finland and never go.
Going back to
Absolutely.
Your idea, like, I wouldn't test it in Finland. You're a Japanese dictionary. Why bother? So no, it's not a. I mean, it's a rule of thumb, but it's meant to be broken. I think Jonas had something.
Yeah, I was just thinking to add to what you have said and what Jori asked originally about the market entry in perspective of the target segment. I think what startups are usually saying is that we have a huge opportunity, like 6 trillion billion mega zillion market. It's enough if we just get 0.5% of the market. But I think it never works that way. You'll never get the 0.5%. So what you should be instead doing is actually figuring out what is your market, your initial market, and trying to get 70% of it.
You're absolutely right. It's better to be the king of the small hill than being part of the bunch standing at the bottom of Mount Everest and staring up and never ever reach it. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you had a.
Small question. If a company is proposing a service that might change its customer business model, shall this company go to the market with an idea first or with a prototype?
Sorry, if a customer needs to change their business model.
Yeah, like for example, let's say in our case, like with advertisers, like we're proposing something a bit new in a conservative market. Shall we go first and talk with those customers with our idea first, or with a proof of concept?
The bigger the change you're proposing to their existing way of operating, the more proof you probably should show to them that it's worthwhile to make the jump. If you go with the idea, they'll probably say, okay, interesting, but I don't have to commit because you don't have anything for me to commit to. I mean, I wouldn't probably commit just based on an idea. So then they'll invite you a couple of months later saying, like, come to show me when you have something new. Then you come with your prototype or the next version or something. I don't, without knowing too much about your idea, I can't comment on it more, but you do face a lot of challenges if you ask the customer to change their business model considerably. Andy, you had a...
Well, just wondering, does this strategy make sense? With Aaltoes Brain Company, we're basically looking first broadly at 3 different segments: school-age kids, learning disabilities, middle-aged people working at large companies who want to polish their skills, and then the retirees who want to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. So basically, to focus in on, to put 2 on the roadmap and choose 1. We basically chose learning disability because 1, we thought it's the low-hanging fruit. It's an easier sell to pitch to a parent that, you know, their 10-year-old, if they buy the software, will have lots of potential unlocked with it. And it's also just basically nuts and bolts dealing with what we got. I mean, we have a team of 4 people. We've got sort of experience in ADHD and dyslexia, and we've got a low temp lab close by. So I think it's just a practice, right? And then part of the roadmap is to be able to have a real
makes sense. I mean, without knowing too much about it, it sounds like if you were trying to go for all three markets at in one go, it wouldn't make sense, in my opinion. But selecting and prioritizing them definitely makes sense. Before we conclude, I think there are a couple, like Kassi, what is your pain that you saw? Or have you thought of, have you thought about your solution in terms of these, any of these or all of these, and is there one of these themes that you'd like to talk about from your perspective?
I think the pain of the user, there's two different things, the pain of the user and the pain of the customer. And the pain of the user is pretty clear. They once lack some sort of resources. For instance, the example, they don't have the lawnmower, and instead of buying it, they can borrow it or something like that, or they can need some chore completed again, which they would need to pay for without our service, so they can clearly save money. Basically our customers who would be paying for the service are some organizations and associations like congregates or universities. And well, basically we believe that they want to offer the best for their users. Either there's organizations that have a membership fee, and so they want more members, and so they want to offer good services for their users, for their members. So ours is one of these services that they can offer to their members. That's what they want. That's their paying. That's what they are paying for.
Okay. Is there some? Where from?
Andy.
Okay. ABC. Yeah. All right. Is there anyone else? Have you?
No company just there.
Okay. Right. Is there a pain that you want to address?
I hope to find one.
Okay. That's a very good point. I forgot that. I should have. A very good point. I didn't mention that before. One of the things that we, for instance, at Vettori see a lot is technologies looking for problems that they can solve. And they actually end up inventing pains that don't exist. This sounds very weird, but it is really true. Like, we see lots of plans where it's a very well-created plan, probably a consultant wrote it, and they got some money from Tekes to write it, but the thing is that it sounds like a really good, solid plan, but these basic things just don't compute. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's not a real market. It goes probably to the earlier discussion about business idea and the market opportunity. Like, we see many research, not just research-oriented ideas, but also others where people come up with this cool technology or cool something, and they think that there must be a pain somewhere here. And they're trying to kind of squeeze their solution to something where, and force feed it to some people who actually don't want it.
I think Google is doing that constantly.
Yeah.
They're creating new things and don't know how to make money, and then they just figure it out later. And Twitter is
it's
probably
a good
the
point,
same
but
thing.
they have a very massive reach, and they have the funding to do the experiments. They are also wealthy enough to actually kill projects when they see that it doesn't fly, and they are well funded enough to buy when it doesn't fly with their own, like Google Video. They had something called Google Video. I don't know if you remember that. At the same time, when they had when there was YouTube. YouTube was more successful. They just bought YouTube. Okay, both were owned by Sequoia, so there was maybe they were arranging something in their portfolio as well. But that's another one.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, but that's the way how the corporations can afford to do that. I mean, a normal R&D in a corporation, they have something like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 ratio, meaning that 8 or 9 out of 10 projects they initiate, they kill, or it's not successful. Normally it's killed. If they do it right, they kill it as soon as possible. But as a startup, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
You gotta, whatever you do, it must be based on a real pay. You cannot develop 10 different solutions or businesses and end up one working because you don't have the resources. You don't have the luxury to do it like that.
I think this is, I've never worked in Nokia, I have no inside information, but I understand that there are lots of projects in Nokia which are never developed further or they are just killed. And I've heard of some really brilliant projects within Nokia which never were taken out to the market. Which is interesting to contrast to what you said about Google, because Google actually takes out things in beta, and they don't care if it's good or bad. I mean, they probably test it first internally, but they just, it's the market who decides. And so instead of some engineering committee deciding whether it's going to be good for the market or not, they just take it out there and then let the market decide. Whereas in bigger other corporations, they kill it internally. I've heard that Samsung, for instance, does live market research by launching phones and seeing whether it works or not. They have, first of all, internal competing teams, and then when they decide to launch something, they just test whether it flies or not. And they actually take the phone or whatever it is to the market to see whether it flies. Is there someone who has a comment? Well, actually, no. You, Greg?
Just one last question. Do VCs ever take a role of kind of identifying misguided technology where they might see that this is a really solid technology but it's being used for the wrong thing? Do they sort of mesh and make suggestions and say, why don't we look in that direction?
The smart VCs should do that. There has to be something, like for instance what Vettori does, because we're, like I said, early stage and very hands-on. Early stage, we don't think that they are mature, like well-developed cases yet. So we take very much this kind of a nurturing approach to those projects that we get involved with, and we are very happy to help reorientate them or find the real opportunity there. And we actually, well, just talking about ourselves, we invest to an extent in the idea, but also very much in the team. In the early stages, very much about the team, because like we've worked with some teams where we really haven't figured out what cool is going to come out of it, but we know that they're going to do something really cool. And then we just follow them, and we gradually figure out maybe there's something cool coming out. So we're trying to help them realize this potential.
It feels like it's a take it or leave it sort of proposition. You go in and
yeah, but there are two kinds of VCs to generalize. I think I got this from Juha. When we
You mean like Finns and the other ones?
No, they are. No, they are. There's Google and Excel VCs.
Yes.
And I think the first time we met with Juha, he gave me this example, and I think it's very good characterization. Those, you go to the Excel VC, who is typically a banker by training or an MBA, a young guy or girl, and when you talk about your idea, they open Excel and try to figure out, well, I don't know what you do with Excel. But anyway, the other type of people are the Google guys who actually open Google, try to find out what is out there, what the competition looks like, what the market is, where it would actually fit, does it fit here or does it fit? I mean, it's a different mindset. I don't know how to use Excel. I can do some graphs there, but I don't know the fancier functions. I'm more interested in, and I don't read plans. I want to talk to the people and try to understand how they see the business and how we could help with them together to build the company. And that is really, so I think, and this is not pitching Vettori, I think you need to find the right partner for your project. But in some cases, it's better if you have the perfect team and you know what you're doing, just get the money from the dumb VC and just fly with it. But in some cases, you might need some additional stuff, some skills or some experience and that is where you need other type of VCs. I think we've exceeded the time limit slightly, but
Well, that's okay. They're all here.
yeah.
So it means that they're
Well,
interested. I mean, one comment to the VC part, which you asked, is that the real smart VCs you see out there, what they do, that they will actually identify the opportunities in the market like this. And when you go in and you pitch your idea, and it's in the area, what they will tell you is, forget your idea, it's not good enough. But this is the real problem. Can you solve it? If you can solve it, I'll give you $1 million, and you show me what you can do. That's how the real VCs do it. But they are not in the proximity, so to speak.
I'm just checking, so we don't have Alex or Vlad here.
No, they're not here today.
No. And do we have anyone from Smart Containers?
No, they decided not to join the.
Smart move.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess they have all this figured out already.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good for them. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, or I mean, we could go on and on and on, but otherwise we can. Maybe my final kind of comment on this, all of this, is like, how do you find out all of this? Like, how do you find what the paying is, who's paying, and all this? And there's only one answer, and it's talking. Speaking to customers, speaking to people, talking to people in the industry, in the market, and so on. The answer is not in, well, Google can help you a bit in the first kind of phase of your market research, but it's not going to give you answers. So you need to talk, and you need to do it yourselves, not sending someone like a research, like a consultant or someone to do it for you. You need to do it yourself. You need to understand what the market thinks. And if it requires to fly to the Silicon Valley or Singapore or wherever your market happens to be, or there's more intelligence about your market and all these topics here, then go there. Don't stay here.
Yeah, I was just thinking I totally agree with you, but I was just thinking, what do you think are the best, let's say, web resources where you could dig deeper into these issues? Is there any what you would recommend for us?
I think it depends totally on your market. If you're doing Japanese dictionary or audio collaboration.
I was thinking about maybe a little bit higher level, like the pain level and do it wrong fast and then fix it level. Then when you go into more into one unique business idea, then you obviously go for that specific. What you kind of follow? What you think are the main?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I read TechCrunch, VentureBeat, these kind of online news services or blogs or whatever you want to call them. They give you an idea of what is VentureBeat is very good in telling you what is being funded. Typically in Finland, you see ideas emerging that were funded in Silicon Valley a year ago or 2 years ago, and now they're coming up here, which doesn't always make sense, because it actually means that if they were funded a year ago, 2 years ago, they were in the works maybe 2 years, like 2 years prior. Also, TechCrunch is very useful. But I think those are maybe the main ones. But my main piece of advice is go out there, talk to the people, and go to, if you're doing electronics, go to CES in Las Vegas, Consumer Electronics Show. It's the biggest show on earth, very educational. You think that you're doing something unique, you'll find 20 companies doing exactly the same what you've been doing here. Still, it doesn't matter. You can compete against them, but you need to go there. Or go to Japan, go to wherever your industry is, go there and talk to the people.
I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think way too much people are spending time on reading market research reports and stuff like that, which, as discussed last week, the value in many cases is quite limited. It gives you an idea of the business, but as I said, how many reports you've shown that really predict a declining business. Not many. So it's much more useful to spend the money and the time, for that matter, to go to the major trade shows of your industry and to see what everyone else is talking about. Because that's really the best market intelligence you can have, because you see what all the other players are doing in the field. And then you might come up with some new ideas as well, especially if you talk to all those players, not just hover around.
And sorry, just to comment on that, the argument is not that you don't have the money. You don't need a big booth or stand there like tens of thousands. Talk to Jonas and Rainer, for instance, what they're doing. They go to lots of events. Ask how they're doing it. If you know the guys from Gigs Wiz, I think it's pronounced, or the ex-Floops guys, they have very good hotel suggestions in London for 20 euros. Learn from others. Talk to others what they're doing and how cheap and low you can go. But go out there.
Yeah, how about building your prototype and check with the customers? Do they have the pain and what is their pain? And
sure, yeah. I mean, if
so I can go and discuss that. Would you like to game relationship games? People would say, yeah, probably, but when they receive a link, will they truly log in? Because people say
human
differently
experiments
than
are the best way. Yes.
In every field.
Yeah. Sometimes they're illegal, but if they're illegal, you should do them.
All right. Thank you very much.